Welcome to Revenge Return, where love is never simple, revenge is never accidental, and every story unfolds with secrets, betrayal, and emotional twists you won't see coming. This is where the story begins.
The crystal wine glasses clinked as my sister Amanda raised her fourth toast of the evening, to success, she declared, her designer bracelet catching the light, and to finally proving that hard work and ambition pay off. I sat quietly at the far end of our parents' elaborate dining table, nursing my single glass of wine. The same table where 20 years ago we'd shared simple family dinners before Amanda discovered her calling in the corporate world. "Oh, Emma," she turned to me with that familiar condescending smile. "I almost forgot you were there. Still running that little craft shop downtown?" "Vintage furniture restoration," I corrected softly, though I knew she didn't care about the difference. "And yes, still running it." "Restoration." She laughed, the sound sharp and practiced. "You mean you fix old chairs and tables? Well, I'm out here becoming CEO of Maxwell Industries." Our mother being at Amanda. She'd always been proud of her eldest daughter's corporate climb, each promotion celebrated like a national holiday. "Amanda closed another major acquisition today," she announced to the table. "The biggest deal in the company's history. Tomorrow's the final signing," Amanda added, straightening her Channel blazer. "Once it's done, Maxwell Industries will be the largest furniture manufacturer in the Northeast." The irony wasn't lost on me. While I restored beautiful old pieces by hand, teaching myself the craft through years of patient study, Amanda mass-produced cheap furniture that fell apart within months. Well, our father raised his glass. At least one of our daughters understands business. I thought about the folder sitting in my office safe, the one containing documents that would make tomorrow very interesting. But I just smiled and took another sip of wine. "Seriously, Emma," Amanda continued, clearly enjoying her moment of glory. "When are you going to give up that pathetic little shop and get a real job? I could find you something entry-level at Maxwell, maybe in the mailroom." Our cousins snickered. Aunt Patricia shook her head sympathetically. "Emma dear, your sister's right. It's time to think about your future. If they only knew." 10 years ago, when Amanda was still climbing the corporate ladder, I discovered my passion for furniture restoration almost by accident. I found an old Victorian desk at a garage sale, its beauty hidden under years of neglect. Something about it called to me. I spent weeks researching restoration techniques, learning about wood types, original craftsmanship, and proper preservation methods. When I finally restored that desk to its original glory, I knew I'd found my calling. But it wasn't just about restoration. I saw something bigger, a way to preserve history while building a sustainable future. I opened my shop, Timeless Treasures, with my savings and a small loan from our grandmother, the only family member who believed in my vision. "Your sister chases money," Grandma told me before she passed away. "But you, my dear, you chase excellence. Remember that." What my family didn't know, what they never bothered to learn, was that Timeless Treasures was just the public face of my business. Behind the scenes, I'd built a network of artisans, collectors, and investors who shared my vision. We didn't just restore furniture. We preserved historical pieces, advised museums, and quietly acquired struggling furniture companies with potential. One of those companies was Maxwell Industries. 5 years ago, when Amanda was still in middle management, Maxwell was on the verge of bankruptcy. Their CEO had run the company into the ground with poor decisions and cheaper materials. I saw an opportunity. Through a series of shell companies and quiet negotiations, I purchased controlling interest in Maxwell Industries. But instead of announcing my ownership, I stayed in the shadows, watching as the board appointed new management, including my ambitious sister. Amanda had no idea that every major decision, every promotion, every acquisition she'd orchestrated had required my quiet approval. Her meteoric rise to CEO wasn't quite the solo triumph she believed it to be. And tomorrow's big signing, the deal she'd been bragging about all evening, it would require the signature of Maxwell's majority owner, me. "You know what your problem is, Emma?" Amanda's voice cut through my thoughts. She was on her 5th glass of wine now, her words slightly slurred. "You lack vision. You're content to stay small, fixing broken things in your little shop while I'm out here building an empire." Our mother nodded in agreement. Amanda has always been the ambitious one. I thought about the antique ledger in my office, the one documenting my ownership of not just Maxwell Industries, but 6 other major furniture manufacturers across the country. My little shop was just the tip of a very large iceberg. Maybe you're right, I said, standing up. It's getting late, and I have an important meeting tomorrow morning. Amanda laughed again. Oh, finally selling that dusty old shop? I gathered my coat, fighting back a smile. No, actually. I'm attending a signing ceremony for a major corporate acquisition. Should be quite interesting. Don't tell me you're serving coffee at my signing tomorrow. Amanda nearly spilled her wine. That would be too perfect. Our father frowned. Emma, don't embarrass your sister at her big moment. Wouldn't dream of it, I said quietly, heading for the door. See you all tomorrow. As I drove home, I thought about the morning ahead. The lawyers would be there at 9. The papers would be ready. Everything would be in place for the biggest deal in Maxwell's history, except for one small detail. In my office safe, next to Grandma's old photographs and that first Victorian desk's original key, sat the documents proving my ownership of Maxwell Industries. Tomorrow, Amanda would finally learn what real success looks like. I pulled into my driveway, smiling at the thought of her face when she realizes that her pathetic little sister owns not just her company, but half the industry she thinks she conquers. Sometimes the smallest shops hide the biggest secrets. The Maxwell Industries boardroom hummed with anticipation the next morning. I arrived early, settling into a quiet corner to watch the show unfold. Executives in expensive suits filed in, followed by lawyers clutching leather briefcases. Amanda strutted in last, wearing a power suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Is everyone ready? She announced, taking her place at the head of the table. Today, Maxwell Industries makes history. I caught my assistant's eye across the room and gave a slight nod. She'd been one of the few people who knew the truth all along. Before we begin, a senior lawyer cleared his throat. We need to confirm that all necessary parties are present. Amanda waved her hand dismissively. Everyone's here. Let's get started. Actually, the lawyer adjusted his glasses. We're still waiting for the majority shareholders' representative. Amanda's perfectly maintained smile flickered. What are you talking about? I'm the CEO. I speak for the company. The CEO doesn't have authority to approve an acquisition of this size without the majority owner's consent. He explained patiently. According to our records, Maxwell Industries is primarily owned by Vintage Ventures LLC. I stood up slowly, smoothing my simple black dress. That would be me. The room fell silent. Amanda's face went from confusion to disbelief to growing horror as I walked to the head of the table. Emma, she choked out. What are you doing? This is a closed meeting. I pulled a folder from my briefcase and slid it across the table. These documents confirm that Vintage Ventures LLC, which I founded 10 years ago, owns 57% of Maxwell Industries shares. The lawyer examined the papers, nodding slowly. Everything appears to be in order. Ms. Emma Bennett is indeed the majority owner of Maxwell Industries. Amanda shot up from her chair. This is ridiculous. She runs a furniture repair shop. She can't possibly. Restoration. I corrected her, just as quietly as I had the night before. And that shop is just one small part of my business empire, one you never bothered to understand. The room started to spin for Amanda. She gripped the table for support. How? When? 5 years ago, I said, taking her seat at the head of the table, when Maxwell was nearly bankrupt. I saw potential in the company, potential that was being wasted by poor management and cheap materials. I opened another folder. I purchased controlling interest through a series of private transactions. The board needed new leadership. You were ambitious, competent enough, and most importantly, too focused on your own success to question where the opportunities came from. Every promotion, Amanda whispered, realization dawning. Every acquisition. Required my approval, yes, I smiled. Though I let you believe they were all your idea. Our parents chose that moment to burst into the room. They'd apparently been waiting in the lobby, expecting to witness Amanda's triumph. What's going on? Our father demanded. Why is Emma disrupting this meeting? The lawyer cleared his throat again. Mr. Bennett, your daughter Emma is the majority owner of Maxwell Industries. Has been for 5 years. Mother actually had to sit down. Father's face went through the same colors as Amanda's had at dinner the night before. While you were all laughing at my pathetic little shop, I continued, I was building something bigger than Maxwell Industries. I own controlling interest in 6 other furniture manufacturers. My restoration business has contracts with museums across the country. That dusty old shop you mocked. It's the public face of a corporation worth over $300 million. Amanda slumped into a chair. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked simply. You were also convinced I was wasting my life, so certain that success only looks one way. I tried to tell you about my business, but you never listened. You were too busy planning your next power move. I turned to the lawyers. Now, about this acquisition. I've reviewed the terms, and they need revision. The current proposal would lead to factory closures and hundreds of lost jobs. That's not how we do business. But the profit margins, Amanda started to argue, are not more important than people's livelihoods. I cut her off. Quality and sustainability matter more than quick profits. That's something you never understood, Amanda. You chase numbers. I build legacy. I pulled out a new contract. Here's the revised proposal. We acquire the company but maintain all existing factories. We invest in better materials, proper craftsmanship, and employee training. Yes, it cuts into immediate profits, but it builds something that lasts. The lawyers reviewed the new terms while Amanda stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. The quiet little sister she thought she knew had never really existed. One more thing, I added. Amanda, you're being reassigned. Her head snapped up. You're firing me? No, I'm making you head of our new apprenticeship program. You'll work directly with our craftsmen, learning what actually goes into making quality furniture. Maybe then you'll understand the difference between building something and just running a business. You can't do this, our father interjected. Amanda is a CEO. No, I said firmly. Amanda is an employee of my company, a company I built while you were all too busy mocking my choices to notice my success. I stood up, gathering my papers. The meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene once everyone has reviewed the new terms. Amanda, your reassignment begins next week. I suggest you spend the weekend thinking about what really matters in business and in life. As I walked out of the boardroom, I heard my mother's shocked whisper. All this time we thought. That's the problem. I called back without turning around. You all spent so much time thinking you knew better that you never bothered to see what was right in front of you. Back in my little shop that evening, I ran my hands over the smooth wood of that first Victorian desk, the one that had started it all. It still sat in my office, restored to its former glory, but bearing the marks of its journey. Like me, it had been underestimated, overlooked, but ultimately proved its worth. I picked up my phone and dialed a familiar number. Grandma's Antiques, a warm voice answered. Hi, Mrs. Chen. That Victorian settee you mentioned last week, I'm ready to take a look. Because while I might own a corporate empire now, I never forgot where I started. Sometimes the greatest success stories begin in the smallest shops, and sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should have been watching all along.